Wait, you're still applying? My brother's voice sliced through the air, his smirk loud even when his mouth wasn't. His fingers flew over the keyboard of my laptop, faster than I could react. Before I could move, the screen blinked. My inbox emptied. He spun the screen toward me. All gone, he said. Guess the deadline won't matter now. Before we begin, drop a comment and tell us where are you from and from which city you're watching our videos? And after watching the whole video, don't forget to tell us what would you do in this situation? Be honest, tell me in the comments below. We read every comment. Let's begin. I stood frozen. My heart dropped to the floor. I had 3 scholarship applications left to submit. 1 week before final cutoff. Months of effort. Personal essays. Financial forms. Gone in 3 clicks. You deleted them? My voice cracked. I couldn't breathe. Don't be dramatic, Haley, he chuckled, leaning back in the chair like he just did something funny. It's not like you were getting in anyway. My mom stood in the doorway, arms crossed, towel in hand. She'd heard it.
She saw it.
But instead of scolding him, she laughed. Oh, sweetie, she said, wiping her hands. You're too sensitive for college anyway. You'd cry the first time a professor raised his voice. My dad, who hadn't looked up from the sports channel in hours, just gave a lazy shrug. It'll hurt less later, he muttered. Better now than when the rejection letters roll in. They thought they were doing me a favor. A mercy kill. They didn't know what they'd just started. That night, I locked my door. I couldn't stop shaking. I stared at the empty screen, and the echo of their voices kept playing in my ears. You're too sensitive. You won't make it. You weren't going anywhere. They didn't know I'd backed everything up to a drive. A hidden one. They didn't know I'd handwritten every essay, revised it 10 times, burned through pens like cigarettes. And they definitely didn't know I had something bigger in mind than just scholarships. I wasn't just applying to college. I was planning my escape. At school the next morning, I didn't speak to anyone. I sat alone, eyes locked on my screen. I retyped the entire application for the Fulbright Swanston Future Leaders Scholarship from scratch. I stayed after hours. Hid in the library when the janitor swept the floors. Slept 4 hours a night. On Friday, I waited until everyone was asleep. Then I walked to the gas station 2 miles away to print the recommendation letters. I bought a coffee. Sent in all 3 scholarship apps at 2:36 a.m. from the clerk's Wi-Fi. 2 weeks passed. No one noticed I was gone longer. No one asked where I was. But the principal called me into the office. He handed me a large envelope. His eyebrows raised. Haley, this came certified. Inside it, a gold seal. Future Leaders Scholarship. Full tuition. A hand-signed letter. Dear Ms. Haley Brooks, your essay moved our entire panel. We're not just awarding you the scholarship. We'd like you to give the opening speech at the Future Women in Tech Conference in Boston next month. When I got home, my brother was back at the kitchen table, laughing over some dumb TikTok with his friends. My mom was in the living room, painting her nails. My dad was asleep on the couch. No one noticed I was glowing.
Not yet.
Because I hadn't told them what was coming. Not yet. But they were about to find out. And they wouldn't be laughing for long. It started with a package on the porch. A thick one. Heavy. My mom thought it was another one of her candle sets. She tore it open, only to freeze when she saw the letter on top. Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Full ride. 5-year research grant. Housing covered. First flight leaves in 2 weeks. MIT? My mom whispered, almost like it hurt to say. I walked in from the backyard, dirt on my hands. I'd been fixing up the old bike I planned to sell for extra cash. She turned to me like I'd committed a crime. You applied to MIT? I didn't answer. I walked right past her, into the kitchen. My brother looked up from his cereal, then squinted at the letter. You got into MIT?
How?
Must have been a mistake, my dad muttered, still half asleep. No way someone like her. She got a scholarship too, my mom said, flipping through the packet with trembling hands. Everything's paid. She's leaving. The silence in that kitchen was the loudest thing I'd ever heard. I stood there, and let it soak in. Every insult, every laugh, every time they said I couldn't. Now, they had to swallow it. My brother looked like someone had punched him. You didn't even tell us you were applying. You deleted the emails, I said, finally locking eyes with him. Remember? He went pale. I didn't think, it was a joke. No, I said. It wasn't. It was a warning. But you were too stupid to realize it. That night, I packed my things. Quietly. No tears. No drama. Just box after box of my future being sealed and labeled while the house that hated me stayed quiet. Mom hovered near my door once. It's not that we didn't believe in you, Haley. It's just, you're not like the other girls who succeed. I zipped my suitcase shut. You're right, I said softly. I'm not. They were supported. I had to become fire to survive. She blinked. I didn't mean. Yes, you did. I cut in. And that's why I'm done letting you shape me. The airport smelled like hope. I'd never flown before. Never even stepped inside a terminal. But as I watched the plane pull in, I realized something deep in my bones. They clipped my wings for years. And I still managed to fly. I landed in Boston with nothing but one suitcase, a laptop, and my name. But I had more than enough. They placed me in a dorm with 3 other women in STEM. All first-gen scholars. All brilliant. All survivors. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel like a mistake. I felt possible. I gave my speech at the Future Women in Tech conference in front of 400 people. When I mentioned that my own family called me too sensitive for college, the room gasped. I didn't name names. I didn't need to. The truth was already heavier than vengeance. But then something happened I didn't expect. A recruiter from a top AI firm approached me after. She shook my hand and said, I want you in our mentorship pipeline. People like you? You're why we're building the future. I hadn't planned on going back home. But life has a way of testing you the moment you start to heal. A month into my semester, I got a call from Principal Marks back at my old high school. He asked if I could speak at their upcoming Scholarship Awareness Day. Apparently, my story had gone viral in an education blog. You'd be the perfect inspiration for the students who feel overlooked, he said. I hesitated. The last time I walked those halls, I was invisible. But something inside me whispered, go back. Let them see what they tried to bury. When I landed in my hometown for the 2-day visit, I didn't tell my family. I stayed with Miss Turner, my old English teacher. She was the only one who ever saw more in me than silence. She opened the door and wrapped me in the kind of hug I forgot existed. You made it, she whispered. I knew you would. I wanted to cry, but I'd shed enough tears in that house already. The next morning, I stood behind the auditorium curtain, looking out at a crowd of students. I spotted faces just like mine used to be, quiet, guarded, waiting for someone to say they mattered. And I told them everything. Not the polished version. The real one. How I'd applied in secret. How my brother sabotaged me. How my mother laughed. How I applied anyway. How I left. And how I never came back to be liked. I didn't mention names. But the truth was louder than that. I spoke for every girl whose dreams were mocked at the dinner table. For every kid whose family told them, dream smaller. Stay in your lane. The room gave me a standing ovation. Even the teachers were wiping their eyes. But the moment I stepped outside, she was there. My mom, holding her purse like it was a weapon, standing beside my brother, who wore that same smug face he always did when he thought he had the upper hand. You spoke like we were the enemy, she said sharply. What happened to family? I looked her dead in the eye. You don't get to use that word. Family doesn't delete your future and call it just joking. You think you're better than us now? My brother snapped. No, I said calmly. I know I am. They didn't expect that. They expected the same quiet girl who walked on eggshells and begged for scraps of affection. But she died the day they laughed at my dreams. That night, Miss Turner and I stayed up late. She pulled out a dusty binder of all my old essays, ones I forgot even writing. You always had it, she said. They just tried to smother it. I left the next morning without saying goodbye to my family. There was nothing left to say. Back in Boston, I started a vlog series called No One Believed in Me. Each week, I featured a different woman from a difficult background who made it to college, tech, leadership, or entrepreneurship. The channel blew up. Thousands of comments, millions of views, and one message stood out. From a girl in Ohio. My dad burned my college essays last week, but after watching your story, I rewrote them. Thank you for saving me. I stared at that comment for a long time. Then I smiled. I didn't just escape. I'd become the lifeline I never had. By the end of sophomore year, everything changed. I was selected to co-lead a research team at MIT focusing on low-cost, high-impact AI for public school systems, specifically designed for underfunded districts. The project got picked up by a national education nonprofit. Suddenly, I wasn't just the girl who got out. I was the girl bringing change back in. One afternoon, I got a call from a New York journalist. They were doing a feature titled From Ignored to Icon on first-gen women in STEM. They wanted me on the cover. Your background, it's gripping, the editor said. You were erased in your own home, and now you're rewriting the whole script. That line stuck with me. I was rewriting it. Not just for me, but for every girl they said wouldn't make it. I flew to New York for the shoot. The stylist handed me a slate gray suit, sharp, clean, nothing too flashy. But I reached for the deep burgundy instead. Bold.
Fierce.
Unapologetic. I'd spent too many years muted. The article went viral. My inbox flooded with speaking invites.
Podcasts.
Panels. Universities. But one message hit different. It was from my high school. From the same counselor who once said, maybe college isn't for everyone, some people are just better suited to, simpler paths. Now, she wanted me to keynote the graduation. She ended her email with, our students could really benefit from someone like you.
Someone like me.
I didn't reply. Not yet. Weeks later, I was walking across campus, sipping burnt coffee, when my phone buzzed. It was a number I hadn't saved.
Mom.
I froze. Stared at the screen. For a second, my breath caught in my chest. I hadn't heard her voice in over a year. I let it ring. And ring. And ring. Then I answered. Haley, she said, like the name burned. We saw the magazine. It's everywhere. Silence. Then, we're proud of you. A pause. Then the kicker. Your brother is trying to apply for a business loan. Do you think you could maybe help? I smiled without joy. You mean the same brother who deleted my future? He didn't mean it. He did, I said coldly. And you laughed. More silence. We're still your family, Haley. No, I said softly. Family is who stands with you when no one's watching, not who only shows up when the cameras do.
Click.
I didn't block her. I didn't need to. Because that conversation didn't hurt anymore. Not like before. Now it just felt like confirmation. I'd grown out of the cage they kept me in. A week later, I accepted the graduation keynote. I stood on the same stage where I once sat invisible, and I looked out at every student with that same quiet fire I once had in my chest. Then I said the words no one had said to me. You were never meant to be small. You were only raised by people who feared your size. The day my speech went live, it hit 1 million views in under 24 hours. I hadn't expected that. Thousands of messages poured in. Students who were told they weren't smart enough. Girls who were mocked for being too emotional. Kids who had to hide their dreams because their homes were war zones of insecurity and ego. But there was one message that brought me to tears. I was going to drop out tomorrow. But then I watched your speech. I stayed. I just needed one reason. You gave me 10. I sat on the floor of my dorm room and sobbed into my hoodie. Not because I was sad, but because that girl was me just 2 years ago. I started a nonprofit the following semester. Project Ember. Its mission was simple. Identify high-potential, low-income students with little support. Offer them scholarships, mentorship, application help, and tech training. Build the latter I never had. In 1 year, we helped over 300 students get into schools like Yale, Berkeley, NYU, and Spelman. Guess what? The first girl we funded? She came from my hometown. She'd been told she was too quiet to lead. Now she was a freshman at Stanford with a full ride. As for me, I graduated at the top of my class, spoke at the National Education Summit, got offered a policy role in Washington, building digital access for underserved communities. But the biggest shock came on a random Tuesday. A man in a sharp navy suit showed up at our MIT office. He was from the Board of Higher Education Affairs. He handed me a plaque. "Your work has changed thousands of lives," he said. "You've redefined what it means to overcome." The plaque read, "To Haley Brooks, the girl who refused to stay small." Years later, I bought a small house near Boston. Quiet street, big windows, books everywhere. One day, while planting daffodils in my front yard, a sleek silver car pulled up. Out stepped my mother.
Hair shorter now.
Eyes older. No makeup.
Just raw.
She didn't speak at first. Just held out a photo. Me, at 5 years old.
Sitting on a swing. Grinning.
Dirt on my cheeks. "You always looked like you wanted to fly away," she said quietly. I stayed still. "I was wrong, Haley. About everything." She tried to hand me the photo. I looked at it. Then her. "I'm not 5 anymore," I said softly. "And I didn't just fly away. I learned to soar. Without you." I walked back inside. Left the door open behind me. Some people never change. But some people learn. And some people, they become everything they were told they couldn't. I wasn't the quiet girl anymore. I was a builder. A fire starter. A damn revolution in sneakers, and a dream. And the best part? I was just getting started. If this story hits you even a little, just hit that like button. It helps more than you think. Don't forget to subscribe if you've ever felt this kind of pain. You're not alone.